Krista Ann Ames here from Gallery 1 in the ceramics studio, and I am here today to give you a lesson on how to make an Art2GO kit that is the ceramic bear cup. So here in your kit you have everything you need to make your bear cup, and we have our Art2GO lesson here where you can read about the simple description of what the lesson is today, as well as a little extra information about a featured artist here, Alana Darachi, and her work and how she works making different animals, and this lovely bear sculpture that she has here for some inspiration for us to think about. Then we also have what is clay and the stages of clay in here, important things to know about when working with clay and ceramics, and some tools that you have at your home that you might need for making your bear cup in addition to what's in the kit. But everything you have in the kit will be fine to make your piece. And then also we have Watch Krista Make a Bear Cup, and here's the link right there. So make sure, I'm sure you found it because you're here, so good job finding the link. And now we have our stages of making our bear cup. So we're gonna look inside our bag and see what we've got to make it. We've got a skewer for doing some fine detail and scoring and scratching. We've got a little piece of canvas to work on, so we're gonna put that down on our work surface. A cup of slip for scratching and slipping things together, like ears and noses and eyes. A little sketchbook to maybe do some drawing of bears and ideas building before you start, and there's a pencil to go with it inside, a tiny golf pencil, so do some drawing in there beforehand if you'd like to pause your video. We also have a brush for applying slip, a fork for doing some extra fast scoring and scratching, and a popsicle stick for doing smoothing and joining. And then last but not least, in our kit, we have our ball of clay. So let's move our video down to my hand so we can get started with step number 1. All right, so step number 1 in our lesson, I always like to, have a precursor step, which is take your ball of clay out of your plastic. Then we're going to create a ball. So we're going to pull a small tennis ball sized chunk of clay away from our clay supply, making sure that we still have a ping pong ball sized clay left. So I'm gonna actually do the reverse and pull my ping pong ball off first so that I just have what's left of my clay to make my cup. So this ping pong ball size amount of clay is going to be for making your eyes, your ears, your nose, and any other features, like if your bear's wearing a bow tie or something like that. Make sure you pull off enough clay to do all those extra things later. And you're gonna put it in the bag again and close it up while pushing the rest of the air out, close it all the way. So then we'll move back to creating our ball. And I'm just gonna pat this clay into more of a sphere shape now that I've pulled the clay away. And I'm also going to smooth out any creases I have in the surface of my clay here. All right, so we have our lovely tennis ball of clay, and we're ready for step number 2, which is going to be creating your opening in your ball of clay. I like to put my ball of clay in my non-dominant or hand, so the one I don't write with, which is my left hand. And then I'm gonna put my thumb into the clay, and I'm pushing it a little past halfway. I wanna make sure there's at least 1/4 of an inch of clay at the bottom from the base to where my thumb is. And then that's step number 2. So I've got my big plum on my thumb, and I'm ready for step number 3, which is pinching the pot. So using gentle pinching motions to thin out the walls of the pot we're going to be pinching and using a pulling motion with our forefingers, which are these ones that I'm wiggling, the ones outside the pot. And we're going to be reaching all the way down to the bottom to start with. So I'm going to change my angle so a little bit toward you. And you want to make sure that your fingers are not separated. You want to act like they're in a mitten. And you're going to pinch and turn, pinch and turn, pinch and turn. So trying to visualize what that 1/4 of an inch looks like. I'm going to pinch with my left hand just so that you have a better angle of what's happening. So I'm pinching and turning the clay. And I'm getting the bottom done first because as you pinch the clay, your pot gets bigger and you might not be able to reach the bottom. So I get my bottom to a 1/4 of an inch, and then I slowly start pinching out a little bit more. So I'm pinching, I'm kind of pulling that clay up with my fingers, pinching and turning, pinching and turning, pinching and turning. And I'm trying to get my walls now to be a 1/4 of an inch. So I'm moving the clay slowly, and I can make a couple passes on the same area as I turn the ball of clay. I'm not worried about getting too hung up on moving fast. This is a slow, methodical process, making this nice pinch pot for your head of your bear. Pinching and turning, moving further up the wall. And I'm trying to think about what a bear head looks like as I'm pinching out my walls and getting this cup to be bigger. I'm also thinking about what is a good shape for a cup to drink out of, since this is going to be a functional bear head cup. Just pinching and turning around. Any cracks that are forming as you're going, you can smooth out with your finger. Those cracks will try and open up otherwise. And as you're pinching, I'm sure you noticed how that one hole from your thumb when you started has gotten so much bigger. So you've done all that work, moving the clay and creating this cup. So now we're pinching up to the rim. And this is our pinch pot. We're about a 1/4 of an inch the whole way through. So now I want to move on to step number 4, which is bellying out or widening the belly of your pot. So first you want to kind of set your pot down so that it has a nice flat spot that your bear head can sit, so that your bear head doesn't roll off the table. And then we're going to either cradle it in the palm of your hand while you do this, or you can keep it set on the table, and you're going to put your fingers inside the pot. And we're doing a stroking motion like this. We're pulling our fingers like that, and then you can pull it into your thumb that's here to hold it in from swiveling out, or you can put your other thumb here if you have it on the table and belly into that. So we're trying to make this bear look like it's got some wide, poofy cheeks on its face. But make sure not to belly it out too much that it flattens out and becomes a very short bear head. Okay, and then we can just squish this back in if it's kind of gotten away from you at the top. And just do some shaping for what you want your head to look like as a cup. Next, we're going to move on to step number 5, which is making your rim. So once you've created the desired size and shape of your cup and you have the wall thickness of about a 1/4 of an inch throughout, you're going to make a rim that is nice to drink off of. So right now my rim is really blunt, and it might be nicer if I tried to pinch it a little bit thinner, but not making it so thin that it's like a knife blade. So we're just pinching it a little bit thinner and giving our head a little bit more height. Moving around slowly to get that nice drinking lip on our pot. So that'll be a really nice rim to come up to with your lip and drink out of. All right, so step number 5 is done. So now we are going to move on to step number 6. So step number 6 is making your eye sockets. So first we want to look at your cup and decide which part is going to be the front of your bear's head. Which part looks the most front-like? Maybe it's the part where when you look at it straight on, it looks the most symmetrical. I feel like this is a good spot for me to do my face of my bear. It's a little bit higher in case I'm pushing the clay around. It could drop down to be the same height as the back of my cup since it kind of slopes there. So I'm going to decide sort of where my eye sockets are going to be. And I'm going to push in with my thumb. I'm going to push that eye socket in. And I'm going to do the same from the other side, pushing that eye socket in so that I know where to put my little bear eyes. And then I'm also going to push out in between them for where my nose is going to be for my bear. And maybe once I push that nose out, I'm like, oh, I think my eyes should move up a little bit. So play around with it and find what's right for you. Maybe even pull the nose forward more, pinch that clay out. And we're gonna, don't worry if your nose isn't as big as you need because we're gonna add a little extra clay for the nose once we get to step number 7, which is right about now. So let's move on to step 7. And in step 7, we're going to make the mouth and nose one after another, since they kind of work into one another. So we'll go into our reserve clay. We're not going to use all of it. We're just going to take off enough for making our nose. So I'm going to just make a ball of clay, and then I'm going to set it down so that it has a flat spot. So it's kind of like a little Hershey Kiss, but melted. And then we're going to push that against where we want our nose to go. And we're going to take that away because anytime we attach clay to itself, we want to make sure to use this very important step, which is called scratch, slip, and attach. You're going to use this for every piece of clay that you add to your cup today. And you use this anytime you attach clay to itself. So we're scratching where we're attaching our bear nose on our cup, and we're scratching what we're attaching, the extra clay, to make that bear nose, the back of it, so that we have this nice Velcro kind of texture that's deep and rough to connect our two pieces together. And then we're going to get our special slip glue, which is the same clay body you're working with, but just with extra water in it. And we're going to get a little bit of that out with our brush and put that on our scoring marks. All right, set that aside. And now we're ready to put our nose on. So I like to kind of squish that into place. Let's go from this side so I can work with my dominant hand. And we're gonna smooth that in. You might wanna use your popsicle stick for this or your fingers, but we're just adding on that nice extra clay for the muzzle of our nose as we're working to make our bear more bear-like. And then I'm just gonna smooth that out some more with my fingers. This one, I'm gonna make a more pointy nose bear than my one in the booklet. And its nose is way down at the table, which I really like. So next, I'm going to go in and define my nose of my bear. So I like to define where its little nostrils are with my popsicle stick. So now I've got 2 little nostrils. I can even squish the clay down with the popsicle stick And then I'm going to go from those nostril holes to start create the mouth. So I'm just pushing the clay down around under it so that I create this little small piece of clay for where my mouth is going to be. And now I have this nice little nose I'm starting to form. Maybe I'll make a ridge there and pull that up. But you don't have to do this the same way that I do. This is really where you start making the bear your own creation. What does your bear look like? Maybe your mouth of your bear is open and it's roaring and it's got little teeth and stuff. So if you want to make a more open mouth, you can always like put your popsicle stick in there. And maybe your bear has an open mouth. And then maybe you'll add some teeth in there. Or maybe you'll create a whole mouth that you just scratch and slip on because you've got a really creative way of doing that. So I'm gonna just squish that back in. Make my nostrils and squish those around. So that's my nose of my bear. So now I am ready to work on step number 8 of my bear cup, which is making my eyes. So I'm going to go back into my reserve clay and I'm going to grab some clay, small amount, and roll an eye. So the bigger your eyes are, the beadier they will be. So I'm going to make this little guy have some bigger eyes than my last one. And I'm going to just roll 2 balls of clay that are about the same size, trying to make them as equal as possible. And I'm going to set them where they would like them to go. And then I will carefully remove them once I trace where I want them to be. So here we've got our right eye on. We're going to remove it and scratch behind it. And we're scratching the back of our eye as well, to then put a little slip on there. And then carefully set that eyeball into place and then just push it in. So now he's got some big eyes there. I always like to also just clean off my brush and then like try and get any of the extra slip off. I like my eyes to stand out, so I try and paint the slip off. And then I can take the end of my tool here to create a little pupil in my bear's eye. Or maybe you have a sleepy bear, which we'll do on the other eye. So let's scratch and slip this eye into place. And oh, I forgot to put slip where I scratch. Let's put some slip there. And then put that eye into place. And smooth around. You can also smooth the eye all the way in if you'd like. I'm gonna make this one look like it has an eyelid, so that I'm gonna smooth it in a little bit and just keep that bottom part undone. And then I'm gonna take my popsicle stick and just do a line across here. Like my bear is taking a nice hibernation and maybe it just got woke up. So then I'll take the end of my skewer so that I have a little pupil down here so that my bear is like, oh, I just woke up from a nap. So I'm gonna do that to my other one so that it matches, because right now my bear looks a little like it maybe had too much coffee today. So just making that eye, changing that a little. And then let's put that eyelid across. for my sleepy eye bear. And then final feature on it, we're gonna add in our pupil, and it's gonna just really bring that together. So now we have this little sleepy eye bear that we're working with. So that's step number 8. So now we're ready to make our ears for our bear. And we're gonna make that out of what clay is left. We might have more clay than we need. And that's totally fine. Better to be prepared than not. So I'm gonna tear off 2 pieces of what I need for my ears. I'm gonna try and make them equal balls. And I'm gonna put any extra clay in here in case inspiration strikes me and I think my bear needs something like a bumblebee or something on it. Who knows? So we're gonna roll our balls of clay into little spheres. And then we're gonna flatten them out. Another way to do this is to roll all your clay and flatten it, and then you can just cut the shapes of your ears with your skewer, which I talk about in the instructions, but this is just an alternate sort of idea. Then we're gonna set our ball down after we flatten it for our ear. So now we have these 2 little ears, and then we can decide, are our ears going to go on the side like that? Or should they go like on top like this? Maybe I'll do one with the ears on top this time since my one in the instructions was on the side. So let's do that. Now I've kind of pinched my clay around where I want the ears to go. And you can see from the top how that kind of looks. So we're going to do 1 ear at a time. And this is going to be a little complicated of a scratching. We're going to make sure we trace so we know where to scratch because it's real easy to forget. And this one we have to trace on the inside and the outside since the ear is on top of your rim. And then we have this nice little groove that we're going to have to scratch in. So scratching inside there. And going 2 different directions with our skewer, and then scratching all along here and inside our cup. And then we can add our slip in. And then carefully put that little ear on the rim. So now we'll want to smooth that in to make sure it's part of the body of our cup. And then now that it's on, we can also do a little extra pinching on it. Maybe our ear needs to be a little bit bigger. We can pinch that out and make it bigger. That's a trickier method though, so if you're ready for that, make sure you have all your connections really smooth. I like to use this popsicle stick for that. And then you can even like turn the ears, like maybe it's listening, or maybe it's turning out, or it's kind of like that. All right, so bear ear number 1. Now we're gonna do the same on the other side with bear ear number 2. So tracing where it goes. Tracing on the inside. Carefully removing and scratching where that line is. 2 directions, making our little X's. Make sure to get on the inside. Scratching 2 directions. And then going inside this little crease we've formed in our ear. Okay, then we're gonna add some slip on where we're attaching it to and what we're attaching, just dolloping that on, not smoothing out any of our scratchy marks. And then we're gonna carefully squish that down. and then smooth it in. Again, I like to use this popsicle stick to really pull the clay down into the body of your cup. And rotate and do the same at the rim and on the inside. You can use your finger or the popsicle stick to really smooth that in. And I like to just smooth out all the surface once I've done the popsicle stick part of smoothing, just to make sure it's all nice and same sort of texture. So now let's move our bear towards us, and we can see this is the one I pinched, and this one needs a little extra character, right? So now that our ear is on here, we can do a little extra pinching. So let's get in there and pinch that out and make our bear have a little extra something. He's listening to something over there, and his ear doesn't need to be perfectly round. It could be a little irregular. Maybe it's turning that way, and it's kind of got a little lip going out that way. So once you have your two ears the way you want, I'm gonna bend mine down and out a little again. Okay, there are my ears for my bear. So then after you're done with that, any other thing you want to do with your extra clay, if you want to make a bow for the top of the head, or you want to add like a beehive or something, you can do anything with the extra clay to add to your cup. Maybe you want to add a little handle or something, or maybe your bear has a friend who's climbing on his head. So think of all those things you want to do, or just don't use the extra clay if you don't want to. I'm going to leave mine, and I'm going to also think about if I want my bear to have maybe some fur. So I might want to go over my piece and make it look like, with my fork here, I can kind of add little lines that look like fur. So if you just kind of, oh gosh, my hand is blocking the video, sorry. You just kind of go like that. You can add like little lines. I'm not going too deep. This can be like little fur for your cup bear. So we're just kind of acting like we're brushing the bear's fur a little bit to create it. Or you can just leave it smooth, whatever you'd like to do. All right, so there's that. Can go all the way around with that. And there's that texture. If we move in close, you can see how that starts to become like a nice furry texture, or you can just leave it smooth. And so now we are ready for step number 10 on our bear cup, which is finishing it. And what I need from you for finishing is you're going to very carefully tilt your bear cup up, and you're going to write your name on the bottom. So I'm going to write my name on the bottom here with my skewer. And carefully write Krista. And then before I'm done, I also need to write what glaze number I would like on my cup. So on your last page of your Art2GO kit, we have how we fire your work, glazing and painting your work, and then we have a couple glaze options here for you to choose from. So glaze option number 1 is white to make your bear cup a polar bear. Glaze option number 2 is brown to make your bear cup a grizzly bear or brown bear. And option number 3 is black to make your bear a black bear. I am going to pick up my cup, and I'm going to write which glaze option I would like on the bottom so that our ceramic technician, Krista, me, will know what glaze you would like your cup glazed. So I'm going to write number 3. I would like a black bear. And so once I put my 3 on there, it's really important that you circle your number, because otherwise some of your letters might be confused for your numbers, and I want to make sure that I glaze that cup the right color for you. So once you've done that, your cup is done and you are ready to come drop your cup at Gallery 1. So bring in your piece, try and make sure that you give yourself time to do that. And it's best to bring your cup in while it still is a little wet. But if it's dry, don't worry, just bring it in. And I will put it in a bisque kiln and I will fire it, and then I'll take it out and I'll look at your glaze number on the bottom, and I'll glaze your cup so that you have a polar bear or a black bear or a grizzly bear. And then your cup will be done and ready to pick up about 2 weeks after you drop it off. And then you can take it home and you can drink things out of it and have a nice cup to have your cocoa or tea in, or just water, whatever you like, but something to drink out of on these cold winter days. All right. Thank you so much for making a bear cup with me today, and I hope to see you soon at Gallery 1. And remember to bring in your bear cup and drop it off on the bisqueware or greenware to be fired, and your cup will be ready for pickup on the finished glazeware to take home. All right, have a great day.